1st, 2025 Little Rock City Board of Directors meeting. We would like to welcome those that are in attendance as well as those watching at home or streaming online. Madam Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Director Miller, Director Richardson, Director Webb, Director Peck, Director Hines, Director Lewis, Director Campiris, Director Phillips, Director Adcock, Vice Mayor Wyrick, Mayor Scott.
Present. Let me now take the time as he approaches his seat, Director Phillips, to give the invocation. You gonna press it?
Let us humble ourselves. Lord, on behalf of the city and all the people who work for it and live in it, we ask for your guidance and protection. Amen.
Amen. Let's please stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll now have a brief legislative update from Susan.
I want to take you all briefly through some of the planning and zoning bills that we are tracking. House Bill 1130, House Bill 1754, and unfortunately short-term rentals is back. House Bill 1790 we are monitoring. House Bill 1130 will be on the floor tomorrow. House Bill 1754 was heard today, will be heard again. Short-term rentals we're expecting to be heard tomorrow as well, so we are actively working on these pieces of legislation and working against them. Also, we've got Senate Bill 322, Senate Bill 456, and Senate Bill 518. Senate Bill 322 will be heard tomorrow, and Senate Bill 518 was heard today. We are also actively working to oppose these bills as well. These are all related in various forms to zoning and planning in various forms. Also, moving on, we have some others that we'd like to draw to your attention. Senate Bill 520 deals with DEI, and it is similar to the same bill, which was SB 3, which was also filed by Sullivan, except it is related directly to municipalities. However, according to our city attorney, it deals more directly with programs, and we don't feel that it will be something that relates directly to our city at this time and will not affect our programs or things that we have right now. So we don't think that it will affect the city of Little Rock at this time. House Bill 1936 is another one that we want to draw your attention to, which deals directly with partisan elections and municipalities. What's interesting about this bill is that the city will have to pass a resolution every 2 years stating that it does not want partisan elections for municipal elections, or it will have to conduct municipal elections partisanly. So this is another one that we are in opposition to and working with the Municipal League on.
All right. We have one modification for today's agenda. We have a deferral of item number 19 that will be heard on April the 15th. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read the consent agenda.
A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with Castillo Concrete Pool and Spa Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $187,446 for the Pine Summit Court Drainage Improvement Project and for other purposes, funding from the limited tax general obligation capital improvement bonds. A resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with H.W. Tucker Company Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $435,094.80 for the Preston Drive Area Drainage Phase 1 Moore Drive Reconstruction Improvement Project and for other purposes, funding from the limited tax general obligation capital improvement bonds. A resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Swayze LLC in an amount not to exceed $372,484.80 for the West 24th Street reconstruction project and for other purposes, funding from the limited tax general obligation capital improvement bonds. A resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Swayze LLC in an amount not to exceed $240,588 for the Autumn Road widening improvement project and for other purposes, funding from the limited tax general obligation capital improvement bonds. A resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a construction contract with Landscape Structures Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $900,000 plus applicable taxes and fees for the construction of accessible playground at Reservoir Park and for other purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Unmanned Vehicle Technologies Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $56,024.78 plus applicable taxes and fees for the purchase of 6 Anzu Robotics Raptor T drones and related equipment to equip the Little Rock Police Department with aerial drones and for other purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to utilize the Arkansas Department of Transportation active list of suppliers and bid prices in an amount not to exceed $200,000 for the purchase of aggregate for the Public Works Department Solid Waste Division and for other purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a 90-day extension of the existing contract with Risk Management Resources for continued third-party administration of the city's self-funded workers' compensation program from April 1, 2025 to June 30th, 2025, and for other purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Cromwell Architects and Engineers Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $75,600 for the City Hall Emergency Wall Repair Project and for other purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Flinco Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $11,332,000 to provide renovations and upgrades for the City of Little Rock Zoo's 2025 entry bond project and for other purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to add funds to the Little Rock Zoo's existing contract with the Little Rock Repair Shop in an amount not to exceed $15,200 for continuation of services on the over-the-jumps carousels restoration and for other purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to purchase the property located at 3600 West 11th Street, Little Rock, Arkansas, for facility-based housing using U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development funds. That concludes your consent agenda.
Move for the adoption of the consent agenda.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, will say nay. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you would please. Citizen communication. Ms. Tanya Stafford. And then after Ms. Stafford, Ms. Betsy Robb. Pull that microphone. You'll pull the microphone.
I'm kind of short. I can talk now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the one that I'm opposed against is ordinance 18, because having those gunshot detections is not going to solve the problem. We need the police to be patrolling the area more. Also, because that's not going to solve our problem. They're not going to work right, and we need more police patrolling in the area so they can see what's going on. Also, the one thing that I have a problem with is animal control is not coming and doing their job when you call about aggressive animals, stray animals. Also, code enforcement is not enforcing their laws. When you see people tearing up my property and other people's next around me, tearing up their property, and you have to pay to get posts there. And then when you call, I called in 2023 DNA and talked to an officer about a drug house, and because you can smell the drugs, and there was a stabbing there. Before that, nobody went to jail. And the problem is a DNA officer was very rude to me and would not come out and, because you've got to have informants, to go in there and see what's going on. And You know, it's real sad when you don't feel safe in your own home or neighborhood. And that's exactly the way I feel. I grew up in Southwest in the 70s and 80s and moved away till my parents' health went down. And when they died, I live in the house. But gunshot detection is not going to solve the problem. We need more police patrol, and the laws that we have, we need to enforce them because it's getting so bad. Stray dogs, because there's a dog in my neighborhood, and if that dog comes over the fence, it is going to bite me. I used to be a veterinarian technician. I understand about animals, aggression. It is a pit bull mix, but any dog can be aggressive, even a Chihuahua. But we need, you know, like last February, somebody stole a Valentine box, a bag. 5 police showed up at my house, and you know, like they were looking for a murder or something. I understand that's a crime, so I let them come in the house. They drawed guns and everything, and the officer's supposed to make a police report. So far, I have found out no police reports. There's fires in the neighborhood. There was one on Charleston, and still yet to find out what caused the fire. The homeless was not in the woods at that time, but it caught behind ollies. But, you know, what's sad is when you don't feel safe in your own neighborhood, even with your doors locked and everything. And I never thought that I would see Southwest look as bad as it does, but
Ma'am,
it's really horrible.
the time is just,
Okay, thank
yes,
you.
ma'am. Thank you. Miss Betsy Robb.
Hello, my name is Betsy Robb. I am a Little Rock resident and voter, have been almost all of my life, and I'm a volunteer for the Little Rock Animal Village and have been since 2012. I did the math, and I think this is my 150th month volunteering for our city animal shelter. I come in support of the Little Rock Animal Village and its staff, and I come in opposition to the new policy that's not official policy but has been implemented that prohibits the release of certain breeds of dogs via adoption or rescue pull. That is a large portion of the animals that they take in each day, each week, each month, each year, and it's had devastating effects on those outcomes. We have lost some progress over the last few years that we had made towards their live release rate, and I'm hoping we're going to reverse that trend any day now, but adopting something like the policy that's been in effect the last week is not the way to do that. I understand the concerns that prompted it. I really do. But I don't think a measure like we've had in place the last week is the solution. I don't think you need advice or guidance from volunteers on what the solution is. I think you probably have an idea. I'm sure Little Rock Animal Village leadership has an idea on what that could be. I think additional staff members would certainly help. But I just wanted to come and voice my opposition to this new policy and voice my support for the Little Rock Animal Village and the incredible work that their staff does. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. Miss Donna Colon, or Colin? Cologne, I apologize.
Good evening. I'm here for the second time, or I'm here this time before the board to find out exactly who controls your Historic District Commission and your City Planning Commission, okay? Reason why is because, sure. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Who controls and who runs this? Okay, the reason why I say that is because you have provisions on the record for your Historic District Commission and how they're supposed to, specifically MacArthur Park, how they're supposed to conduct themselves and do business, but it's not happening. Okay, and what I mean by it's not happening is notices are not giving out, COAs are going to people who already have done the work. So how does that work? Can someone explain to me in 2 minutes, because I only have 2 minutes left, exactly how that works? Or is there anyone here who can explain to me how that works? Even in litigation, how does that work?
Ma'am, we don't, this is merely for the citizens to communicate with the board. What I will do is have someone from planning give you a phone call.
When? 6 weeks later, like the last time I was here?
I don't recall, have you talked?
I was here
You was here?
before, and when I was here, you referred me to someone for the city who didn't get in touch with me until 6 to 8 weeks later until I'm ready to file suit against you.
I will figure that out and correct that issue. But I have your number, and I'll make certain that Brad Jordan contacts you.
You have my number
That's
on the
what's-
slip that I filled out,
That's,
okay?
yes, that's what
All
I
right?
just said.
Just make sure Mr. Jordan understands, I will be there on Thursday or Friday or whatever day, because, you know, there are multiple days that have been listed for your planning commission, okay? Bright and early. Make sure I'm on the agenda.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Yerline Talbert, or I believe is how I'm reading it. Everline. Everline Talbert. Talbert, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good evening.
Yes, and we'll give her a few more seconds since she didn't know. You can start, ma'am.
I have two issues. One of them are very brief. It's concerning the animal shelter. I called, and it's not the first time I've called. No one answered. So I called City Hall, and they picked the phone up. So they allowed me to talk to someone, and she put me on hold, and she never picked up again. So I worked for the city for 27 years, and I've never experienced that before. So that's my first issue. The animals, it was about the animals. And my next issue is about a field in the back of our home. We've lived there for 20 years in December. That hayfield is not a hayfield. He called it a hayfield. It's been cut a few times in 20 years, and it's just like a forest. Cats, animals, and you name it come out of it. And it's about 2 miles long. I went to the alert center, and I had been contacting them off and on. They claimed they couldn't make him cut it because the man that used to cut it died. So he couldn't get anybody else to cut it, I guess. But it's just like a hayfield, not a hayfield, it's like the wilderness behind our homes for about 2 miles long, and nothing has been done about it. So that's why I'm here tonight, to see if you all can force this man into cutting that field that's behind our homes. I don't even go in my backyard, I rarely do because of that. I have great grandchildren, I don't let them go out. And I think it should be against the law to let something like that grow in the community. We're in Fush Dam, which is sort of country, but it's not really the country. And so he don't worry about it. He just let it be as if we're not there. Our home's about 2 miles long on that side. So those are my two issues tonight.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your service to the city of Little Rock. We'll get with our we'll get with our code enforcement and check that out in regards to the ownership, and we'll follow up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shelley Satz, Miss Shelley Satz. If I'm not pronouncing it correctly, please forgive me. Just FYI to anyone.
Hi, I'm Shelley Seitz.
Sites.
Yes, I live in Little Rock, and I am also here on behalf of the Little Rock Animal Village, on behalf of the pit bulls who at this time are not allowed to be adopted. I just want to speak on their behalf because I have been volunteering there for 17 years. That's when I adopted my first pit bull from the animal village, was 17 years ago. In total, I've adopted 4, 2 of which live with me now. And the primary reason I started going there and still go there is to be with the pit bulls because I love them so much. These are amazing dogs. And when I go and walk the pit bulls, I take them to a yard and I snuggle them, I take selfies with them. We spend quality time together, and I try to help them get adopted. And I wanted to be their voice so people will know these are incredible dogs, that just because a dog looks a certain way doesn't make it a bad dog. And the shelter has very stringent testing before a pit bull can leave. They may be wonderful with people, but if they have any sort of food aggression or leash aggression, or they won't let you pull their tails or their ears or their feet, if they don't get along with other dogs, they can't leave the shelter. They have to be put to sleep. And my heart has been broken many times over really good dogs who may not like other dogs or may be food aggressive. They won't let them leave. So it's important to know that all the dogs that leave there have been tested. All of the pit bulls that leave there have been tested. All of the animals are spayed and neutered. They're fully vetted. And with pit bulls, their pictures are taken with their owners. That's on file there. And, well, yeah, they do a good job of vetting them, and they make sure, or they try to make sure they do their best to make sure they go to good homes. And if there's anything I, as a volunteer, can do to help this process, I'm happy to do anything I can. And I don't know if this will be part of your decision going forward, if you have the power to help them. But if you do, I'm asking that you please give them an opportunity at a loving home. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much. Ms. Hall, Kate Hall.
Good evening. My name is Kate Hall. I have been volunteering at the Little Rock Animal Village for more than 7 years now. I moved here from Connecticut almost 13 years ago, and I was completely shocked at the animal overpopulation crisis here. I knew that I had to try to get involved and help. Throughout my time at Little Rock Animal Village, I have met countless incredible dogs. Some made it to their forever homes, but there have been far more that have been put to sleep and that we have had to say goodbye to. The amount of animals coming in far surpasses the amount that get adopted out. Pit bulls have always had my whole heart. Even before I moved here, I worked at a vet hospital in Connecticut. I had been bitten several times, never once by a pit bull. They are some of the most incredible, gentle, and docile creatures I've ever met. I believe that the issue at hand is not that a dangerous breed of dog was adopted out, but rather owners' neglect. Once an animal leaves the shelter has no control of the environment that animal is going to. The attack happened a year and a half after Sebastian was adopted. A lot can happen in that time period. I feel that the adopter alone should be held liable for what happened. They failed to properly secure their dog. To put a ban on pit bulls means many will die with this policy. It is a death sentence for them. We are taught never to judge people by their appearance, and we should not do this when it comes to the dogs at the Little Rock shelter. There are solutions and steps that can be taken to prevent this issue from happening again, and we volunteers at the shelter understand the severity and the financial cost of the lawsuit. We are all more than willing to assist and help in whatever way we can. Please do not place a ban on pit bull adoptions. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Isaac, look, all right. Thank you.
My name is Isaac Busader. I'm a Little Rock citizen, and as well as a student at Euler. I'm here in support of the Animal Village as well. In regards to recent policy changes in adoption to pit bulls, I want to speak firsthand experience in owning multiple pit bulls throughout my life. They were two of the best friends, almost brothers, that I had growing up as a young child. I would trust them with my child's life. I think that they are one of the most loyal, protecting, and loving breeds if, nourished and properly cared for. I also think, public sentiment would quite often agree with me. The research that I'd done on the story, there was a 16-month period, at least from adoption. Why is the city of Little Rock having to pay for, damages done from this animal? You know, I mean, we have multiple people here. I'm sure there's probably going to be more past me that are going to say something similar. But I don't think that any of these animals should suffer. I think that they should be given to good homes. I think, honestly, we should take a little bit more of a stringent look at laws protecting animals. I mean, how often do we see dogs chained up outside in hot weather? I don't think any one of us would want to be placed, you know, with a chain around our neck, put to a tree in the heat of Arkansas, you know, 100-degree summers. And I think that, you know, multiple people would agree with the sentiment. But, you know, myself, along with countless others, you know, we signed a petition that has been forwarded to the city board of directors. I know there's quite a few of them on, you know, social media platforms. I just urge our city board of directors to look into it and please make the right decision here. I don't want to waste anybody else's time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Antoine Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to get a citizen communication card because I thought I was going to be deferred and wanted to have opportunity to speak on it, but it hasn't been deferred, so I'll reserve my time to speak on the item. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We've now, Madam Clerk, you would please read the group items.
An ordinance to amend Chapter 20, Article 1, Section 20-1 and 20-2 of the Little Rock Code of Ordinances, 1988, to declare an emergency and for other purposes. An ordinance to amend Chapter 20, Article 2, Section 20-28 and 20-32 of the Little Rock Code of Ordinances, 1988, to provide for a revision of procedures concerning appellate review of notices to vacate, provide for notice and opportunity to be heard for emergency abatements, to declare an emergency and for other purposes. An ordinance to amend Chapter 36, Article 8, Section 36-513 of the Little Rock Code of Ordinances, 1988, to provide for a revision of the ordinance regarding motor vehicle parking on residential properties, to declare an emergency and for other purposes. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid to award a contract for elevator maintenance to TK Elevator Corporation for the 2 parking decks located at the intersection of 2nd and Main Street and in the River Market, to make this payment through the Little Rock Convention and Visitors Bureau in order to ensure the proper operation of the elevators at the city parking facilities, to declare an emergency and for other purposes. An ordinance authorizing the abandonment and demolition of 8 residential structures severely dilapidated, causing a life safety hazard and negative environmental impacts, and for other purposes. First reading.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Second reading.
An ordinance to amend Chapter 20, Article 1, Section 20-1 and 20-2 of the Little Rock Code of Ordinances, 1988, to declare an emergency and for other purposes. An ordinance to amend Chapter 20, Article 2, Section 20-28 and 20-32 of the Little Rock Code of Ordinances, 1988, to provide for a revision of the procedures concerning appellate review of notices to vacate, provide for notice and opportunity to be heard for emergency abatements, to declare an emergency and for other purposes. An ordinance to amend Chapter 36, Article 8, Section 36-513 of the Little Rock Code of Ordinances, 1988, to provide for a revision of the ordinance regarding motor vehicle parking on residential properties, to declare an emergency and for other purposes. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid to award a contract for elevator maintenance to TK Elevator Corporation for the 2 parking decks located at the intersection of 2nd and Main Street and in the River Market, to make this payment through the Little Rock Convention and Visitors Bureau in order to ensure the proper operation of the elevators at the city parking facilities, to declare an emergency and for other purposes. An ordinance authorizing the abandonment and demolition of 8 residential structures severely dilapidated, causing a life safety hazard and negative environmental impacts, and for other purposes. Second reading.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Third reading.
An ordinance to amend Chapter 20, Article 1, Section 20-1 and 20-2 of the Little Rock Code of Ordinances, 1988, to declare an emergency and for other purposes. An ordinance to amend Chapter 20, Article 2, Section 20-28 and 20-32 of the Little Rock Code of Ordinances, 1988, to provide for revision of procedures concerning appellate review of notices to vacate, provide for notice and opportunity to be heard for emergency abatements, to declare an emergency and for other purposes. An ordinance to amend Chapter 36, Article 8, Section 36-513 of the Little Rock Code of Ordinances, 1988, to provide for a revision of the ordinance regarding motor vehicle parking on residential properties, to declare an emergency and for other purposes. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid to award a contract for elevator maintenance to TK Elevator Corporation for the 2 parking decks located at the intersection of 2nd and Main Street and in the River Market, to make this payment through the Little Rock Convention and Visitors Bureau in order to ensure the proper operation of the elevators at city parking facilities, to declare an emergency and for other purposes. An ordinance authorizing the abandonment and demolition of 8 residential structures severely dilapidated, causing a life safety hazard and negative environmental impacts, and for other purposes. Third and final reading.
Members of the board, we've had 3 readings. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. We also have emergency clauses for items 13, 14, 15, and 16. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Director Webb.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. Now that we've adopted those ordinances, could we get code enforcement or somebody to put out like a memo so we can explain to our neighborhood associations as quickly as possible what those are? And then we'll start working on scheduling visits from code enforcement and from the city attorney's office to neighborhood associations so folks can understand the new policies.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Director Phillips.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And I guess this question for our city attorney. Tom, last week we talked about adopting some, putting meat on the bones as it relates to the policies for the appeal or the abatement process. Can you give us an update on what that is or where we are on that?
You sent something that's used by the Better Business Bureau, and we've got that. We got it this afternoon, and we're looking at that. Right now, the manager is conducting these types of hearings, and they're doing it on the various things we have and have been doing for at least 31 years. I think it predates me, but at least I know that long. We do it on certain types of parking in front of the right-of-way for the trolley. We do it on parking fines and some other issues too. And so, as I said in the answer to your memorandum, I'm glad that you've got this. I think our office needs to try to defer as much as we can to the city manager to make sure that they're comfortable with what they were. Bruce did most of those for at least 15 of 16 or 17 of that 30 years. So it was pretty well in shape, but yeah, we're working on that.
Okay, thank you. And then, Mayor, I have a parliamentary inquiry about number 18.
Yes, sir.
This is also for the city attorney. Last week when we were discussing this, we didn't have the ordinance in front of us, and I know that I think Friday it was posted as a resolution, and I guess that was corrected, and it's an ordinance now. Because it is an ordinance, does it require 3 readings?
No, this is an expunged ordinance that's coming back. Wait. No, this is the case builder saw. Wait, 18.
19 has been deferred.
Yeah, 18 is the one that's being brought back up. It's the same ordinance that was before the board. I think it was February the 4th. It got a plurality, but it was only 5-3. It did not get a majority, so it did not pass. A motion to expunge was made. The motion passed, and this is now being brought up. So it's the same ordinance. Y'all can't change it. One of the things that I mentioned last week at the agenda meeting is that additional territory has been identified, and the company is willing to do it, and the police would like to do it, but y'all can only vote on what was the ordinance tonight that it did not pass that has been expunged. So this is $188,000, and it includes case builder. which is a software package that's needed whether this passes or not. That's why 19 is deferred. If this passes in after the discussion of number 18, 19 becomes irrelevant for next 2 weeks and won't be on the agenda. But if it doesn't, then the police department needs y'all to address the software package.
Okay, and I received a number of emails, I'm sure all my colleagues did, about number 18, but particularly from a parliamentary standpoint, do you know what, or can you inform us on what rule says that if you expunge a vote and it comes back, it only has to be read? It doesn't have to be read three times again?
What the rule says is that you're expunging the vote, which means you've got an ordinance before you that has not been voted on, but it has been read. You can't expunge a vote unless a vote has taken place. So there were 3 readings and a vote took place. That vote was expunged, so that puts the ordinance back in the same position, and that means it's had 3 readings, and so this is to vote yea or nay on the ordinance.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm saying, but what's the rule?
I just
No, I'm saying like the people have emailed me and asked, what citation are we relying on for
Robert's
these rules? What citation of Robert's rules?
I don't have the specific number with me right now. If I known you wanted, I would have made sure I had it, but that's how Robert's rules works.
Okay, I'll leave it there, Mayor. Thank you, Tom.
All right. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read. We've already read it. Members of the board, we have a number of different cards. For and against. Director Phillips, you want to speak now? You want to wait later?
No, I would definitely defer to the constituents.
All right. So bear with me. We'll start with Joy Reinveld. Joy Reinveld, Reinbeld. All right. John Hout, I believe. John Hout.
Thank you for your time. I'll be relatively brief. I'm a resident of the city, and I know that in following some of this, a lot of concern has been directed toward offenders and catching people. And in speaking with law enforcement friends of mine, there have been several occasions when they've been able to respond promptly and save somebody's life. And so by using this tool, it allows law enforcement, ambulances, fire to respond promptly, and that gives individuals the chance to live. And the thing that a lot of people don't realize is the amount of time from the injury to something that happens critical is a very short period of time. The quicker that they can get to the hospital, the more chance they have to make it. I don't know what the error rate of the system is, but let me if just out of guessing, I know it's not 1%, but if it were 1%, that meant for every 100 times it activates, there's an opportunity for one person to live that they did not have that opportunity before. And so I've also talked to family members that have had their loved ones killed in violent situations, and I can promise you, you don't ever want to be in that situation. You can't comprehend it unless you have. And I hope nobody in here has ever had that opportunity. But I can tell you in talking with people that have had loved ones in that situation, you can't conceive of it. And so I would hope that the board would consider utilizing this tool for no reason other than it gives some individuals the opportunity to live, and it spares families when they might not have had that chance. And I'll finish with, I certainly do appreciate Animal Villages. One of my best family members is from there. So thank you all very much for your time.
Surveillance is not safety. We keep us safe.
Order it. Hey, we got to let everybody talk. We got folks who signed up. We're not going to have any disorder here. We got like 40 cards, all right? Next, we have Amy Pritchard. Everyone, please maintain decorum. We're going to listen to everyone speak. So allow those for and or against to speak. Ms. Pritchard.
Good evening. My name is Amy Pritchard. I'm a resident of Ward 3. I'm an attorney and someone who's worked on housing and police reform in this city for over a decade. I sued the city in Alexander Apartments case, which has led to the tenants' protections you approved earlier. And I also successfully sued the state over the misuse of a harmful algorithm. Sorry. And so that I don't come here speaking on tech contracts lightly. I've reviewed the original ShotSpotter contract. I flagged legal concerns publicly and privately, including directly to the city attorney. I've raised questions about the sole source claim. I've received no response. Yesterday, I took valuable time to send a letter in response to the resolution that was posted less than 48 business hours before this meeting. I've received no response. Today, just hours before this meeting, a different ordinance was released. This isn't just sloppy process. This is intentional obfuscation. It's part of a broader pattern. In February, you approved a contract for Flock after multiple changes to the ordinance and no clear explanation about what was being renewed. I emailed my ward director directly asking what was going on. She forwarded my concerns to the police chief and the city manager. They never responded. I asked what was being purchased. Does it include Flock Raven, an always-on audio surveillance system? Has the board ever seen that contract? Was it ever voted on separately? I asked where the legally required license plate reader data could be accessed. I got silence. An FOI response for the legally required license plate data did not contain the data that the city is required to collect and report. Back in November, I came before you when the city voted on a nearly $1 million real-time crime center contract, which passed on the consent agenda and also passed on an ordinance that we, the citizens, never saw until you passed it. After this, I came to ask about, I wrote to the city asking for a public discussion of policies and oversights. I came before this board after the city attorney summarily dismissed my Citizens Review Board complaint. I asked about my appeal rights, no response. I asked the mayor's attorney to review the disposal, no response. Mr. Carpenter told this board that the PSC was the place for real-time policy procedure discussion. So I went there along with others, and the PSC created a committee to review the real-time crime center policies and procedures. The next month, the mayor's chief of staff pushed the PSC to rescind the committee. So after 4 months of effort, no one has responded to my requests of citizens review or oversight of surveillance policies. And now you're being asked to approve a renewal for a contract that expired, bundled with Case Builder, which is being deferred. You're being told it's a sole source, even though the city's already using Flock Raven. Let me be clear, bundling does not make a contract sole source. It's not a loophole, it's a legal vulnerability. On April 15th, a second ordinance will come before you to expand ShotSpotter by 2 more miles and $66,000. This isn't a vote on a contract, it's the first phase of surveillance rollout that the public hasn't seen. 6 new drones are being deployed in the same zone with no board-approved policies. LRPD says the procedures will be written during the pilot period. That's not oversight, that's blind trust. You're building a layered surveillance infrastructure, ShotSpotter, drones, Flock, real-time crime center, Case Builder, without transparency, without policy guardrails, and without public consent. I've said everything I can say. I followed every single process. I've asked for clarity, oversight, and accountability again and again. And I've been met with evasion, silence, and tactical confusion. This is the final time I'm coming before this board. Withdraw this ordinance, reintroduce it properly, and let the people see what you're building. This isn't just a vote, it's a matter of public record, and the people watching you won't forget how this happened. Thank you.
Mr. William Gerard.
Mayor, board members, I come here today against ShotSpotter. We need community policing in our neighborhoods, not ShotSpotter. We do not need drones. We do not need none of this fancy surveillance. We need real people in the neighborhoods, real police officers that can connect to the public so we can solve crimes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Majard. Mr. Will Jones.
Thank you, mayors, members of the board. I appreciate the opportunity to come before you today. As leaders in the city of Little Rock, I know you guys feel the same pain that I do when families lose their children and wives and husbands to violence in the streets of Little Rock. I thought about how I would start this off today, and then I had one of those days that as the prosecuting attorney in Little Rock, I have occasionally. I met with 3 different families today that are Little Rock families that have had to bury their children. And one man had to bury his wife and the mother of his 3 daughters to gun violence. Those are the things that we deal with on a daily basis in our office. We have over 250 homicides right now pending in our office. Next week is National Crime Victims Week, where there are many events that are going to happen right here in Little Rock, and I think many of you will attend those events, where we celebrate those families that are survivors. We celebrate those victims who have survived gun violence and violent crime. And I want to talk with you, hear things about, prevention and all this kind of thing. And I don't believe we should make the choice between prevention and getting justice for families. This is right here is a 27-page printout from the new system that we have in our office of all the times that ShotSpotter has helped us solve crimes. Some of these cases have been resolved. Some of these cases are still pending. These are all, and some of them have 4 and 5 different cases on each one. I'm just going to turn to page 5 here and list off the list of charges that we've been able to get justice for. Possession of firearms with certain persons, endangering the welfare of a minor in the 1st degree, capital murder, capital murder, capital murder, capital murder, criminal intent for capital murder, terroristic act, terroristic act, terroristic act, aggravated assault with a firearm, terroristic act with a conveyance.
You have no proof. You have no proof. Case number.
Well, they're out of order, Mayor. Somebody's got the vice mayor's right here. The vice mayor. You're not the vice mayor. Don't do that. Come on, man. It's trouble. It's the vice mayor.
Y'all is crazy.
It's the vice mayor. You don't do that. Calm down. You need to calm down. She's the vice mayor, not you. She's the vice mayor.
I'm a member of this board. I'm
You don't grab that gavel. She does. If I walk out, she does. Come on, man. Please carry on, Mr.
Thank you. I sat across the table from parents that have buried their children on a weekly basis. And when you look in the eyes and see the pain of those families, you want to do anything that you can to get justice for them. And I'll tell you, we think about gun violence as an epidemic, and I think it certainly is. When I think about that, I think about other healthcare crises. I think about cancer. I think about heart disease. I can't imagine a scenario where we look at a cancer patient and say, we're going to take away some of the treatment options, and we're going to use that for prevention for people that don't have cancer yet. I think we can do both. I believe we should do both, and I believe we have an obligation to continue to get justice for families and also work on prevention to keep our community safe. Thank you.
We keep us safe.
Mr. J. Cheshire.
Surveillance isn't safety. We keep ourselves safe.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the board. Appreciate the opportunity to come and stand before you tonight. Jay Cheshire with the Little Rock Regional Chamber of Commerce. Tonight, coming on behalf of the Joint Law Enforcement Task Force of both the Little Rock Regional Chamber and 50 for the Future. If you'll recall, on February the 18th, we sent a memorandum following the February 4th meeting where, without having that 6th vote, the ShotSpotter contract was not able to be renewed. If you'll recall, I believe, Mr. Attorney, it was a 5-3 vote, if I recall at this point in time. We sent the memorandum the day that we had the big snowstorm and you guys decided to expedite your meeting and have that meeting at noon so that you would be safe. Obviously, something that was important not only to us that you be safe, but to the folks that wanted to come and attend that meeting. So we sent this memo talking about why we were disappointed in that contract not being renewed, and that also there were 2 additional contracts on that February agenda that had to do with the Real-Time Crime Center and the Little Rock Police Department, prosecuting attorney, and all of our law enforcement personnel having the opportunities to have the tools at their beck and call to be able to do the work that we're asking them to do. Much has been said about what something does or does not prevent. And we all want, obviously, a day and time when there is no crime. Unfortunately, not everything that we do as a city prevents crime. I recall standing in front of this same board in 2011 where we talked about the prevention, intervention, and treatment budget that this board was working on at that point in time, trying to put in place programs to keep this type of activity from occurring. And the business community supported doubling that amount of money to go from 3 million to 6 million. We still support everything that you're trying to do from a prevention, intervention, and treatment perspective, because we believe that too has to be a part of this process. But as the prosecuting attorney just talked about, when a shot is fired, there's no prevention left. It's already occurred. The ShotSpotter didn't pull the trigger. The ShotSpotter identified where that actual gun was fired. It alerts first responders to be able to get to that scene as quickly as possible, as Mr. Hout said earlier, to even save lives by getting there before anyone even has to make a phone call. Unfortunately, in today's world, people are afraid to make phone calls because of retribution that can come their way once that individual who committed the crime gets out of jail. So people are afraid some days, sometimes, some instances to make that call. With this technology, we don't have to worry about that. Secondly, when this technology alerts the police department, they're able to arrive at the scene early enough to get the evidence needed to do what the prosecutor talked about. Put together enough evidence for a court of law to be able to take that evidence and convict these people who are doing the things that none of us want them to do. No one in this room wants them to do. So we're all in accord in that regard. The one thing, though, that really struck me was the opportunity to actually see this work in progress. With the Real-Time Crime Center taking prospective companies, looking at Little Rock, Arkansas as a place to locate with thousands of jobs, and showing them what we're doing to try to keep crime from happening, while at the same time what we're doing to take what happened at that moment in time and convict people of things that they shouldn't be doing. So for all of those reasons and many more, we're for every prevention, intervention, and treatment program that this body believes is working. But we're also for every piece of technology that allows our police department to, first of all, do their job. Secondly, to allow them the opportunity to know what they're walking into before they ever get there because of the Real-Time Crime Center, and save possibly their life at the same time they're trying to save others' lives. It's a difficult day that we live in. None of these people want crime. We all want a safe city. The business community wants a safe city. The nonprofit community wants a safe city. Every citizen wants a safe city. Let's not take away the tools that our police department and our prosecuting attorney tells us are vital in putting away the people the very people that are causing us all problems. Thank you.
Are you a lobbyist? I love you, Lance. Hi, Lance. You're my number one fan. I know.
Miss Vicky Hatter.
I should have made a sign that said I love Lance Hahn. I'll sign it for you.
Well, first of all, good evening, members of the city board and to our mayor. I have prepared my remarks, but as I listened and tried to do even more research on this, I'm talking about ShotSpotter, and what I would say is that in part of the profession that I'm in my public position, safety is always a concern. And we say for our students, safety is a concern, which translates to children. Then when the city is talking about top safety. But the responsibility of this, of course, goes beyond our school board, our school classrooms, and then into our communities, no matter where our children live. I have seen firsthand how violence have disrupted education and limited opportunities for young people to succeed. I have attended funerals and such, but I'm going to pause on these remarks because I just have really one question. We are proposing to spend $188,000 and then $39,500 if the 18th doesn't pass. My question is really around data, because I'm not hearing about data. I'm not hearing about how data is driving these decisions and that this is the fourth contract. We heard from our prosecutor who said that he has 27 cases where ShotSpotter was able to help solve these cases. But my question is if ShotSpotter sends off a signal to alert EMS to come, it doesn't say who did it, what they look like. It doesn't give any descriptions. And I want to know the data. What type of data are you guys being presented in real time to continue to renew this? And sitting on the Little Rock School Board, I understand contracts, I understand vendors, because that's one of the main things that we approve, vendors. We do pilots in particularly the same areas that ShotSpotter is in. And for some people, it's lucrative to say, oh, well, this is crime reduction. It's lucrative to say, oh, well, this helped a struggling student. It's lucrative. But I want to know the data. I also want to know how our prevention is working and to compare the two. And then last thing I will say, I'm sorry, I really was prepared, because for y'all who know me know I can go all over, but I really wanted to be prepared. I will start to end on this. If we are truly trying to protect our communities, then we must focus on solutions that address the root cause of violence or conflict and create long-term safety. This means investing in crime prevention programs. This means looking at the people as if they was your people, as if it was your blood. I don't know if any of y'all, when I was president of the Little Rock School District Board, my first time being called out to a scene was in Borough Park to a 10-year-old being shot. I had no idea what I was walking into. The mom was sitting there picking the grass because that's where her baby's flesh was. She was collecting that. And that wasn't the only one. We just had 3 teens lost out of Mapleville. You guys, this is serious work, and I get the vendors. I get that the city of Little Rock, as well as the Little Rock School District, we are an economic engine. People come to us piloting, doing things, but I also took the time to look at other cities that have ShotSpotter, and they're pulling away. They're pulling away, y'all. And so I'm not saying that we don't need to not deal with prevention and reaction, but this is a reactionary tool that does not help and make our community safe. And then what it does, it tells our law enforcement officers to go here because a shot have been deployed, or whatever we call it, shot. But guess what, y'all? We ain't talking about the officer safety. We don't know if we're sending them into an ambush. We don't know what else is going over there. And so I want you guys to really think about this sound thinking, which is what it is now. It changed its name from ShotSpotter or ShotStopper or whatever. And the last thing I will say, and I'll sit down, and I don't know if I'm over my 3 minutes, and I do apologize, y'all, but y'all know how I am. I'm passionate about this. When I got the call to see what I thought about it, I said, oh, you don't have to worry about that. The city voted on that, and it went away, and you don't have to worry about all that. And then to listen to the person tell me that, no, it's coming back. And I said, well, it went away, came back. I'm confused. So what I will say is that the next potential area is Ward 6. I live in Ward 6. We have APS that patrols that. We got sheriffs. We got LRPD. We got the little unmarked vehicles. I don't know who they are. And we also have the cameras. License plate readers, okay. How much surveillance are we going to do to our people, particularly our poor people, particularly our Black and brown people, particularly communities that our mayor talked about during his first and second and probably even his third term, when he's talking about investing in disinvested areas. If we really seriously, amen, amen. Y'all, I would just say this. I sit. Oh, I'm so sorry. We're taught not to cry in public. I'm sorry. Okay, really quick. If we really want to curb the conflict, then we will look at housing insecurity. We will look at job insecurity. We will look at our students and how they have to come to school and they may not have the proper food because they don't live in proper housing. We're dealing with a poverty issue, which drives crimes of necessity. And we're not talking about that. So as I have entered into what I realized someone said, this public health space, because poverty is a public health issue. And when we correlate people that are incarcerated with their education level, and we see that there was a breakdown, there's a multiple breakdown, not only at the school district level, but also in the community. So what I do want to say, y'all, is that if we're going to be serious about addressing crime, and we do have to respond to crime, I do understand that, but we need to look at the root causes of this. And at some point, you guys, I would love to see some data on this sound thinking. And then I also would like, in the type of data, and then I'm gonna finish it down for real. The type of data that I would like to see is how many officers responded to the calls? What was the results of them? How does it correlate to what case number? How were they processed? Because we're talking about $250,000, right, if we put 18 and 19 together. Okay, y'all, I'm finna sit down. Please excuse my tears. I'm sorry. And I appreciate y'all's service. Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Hatter. Ms. Caitlin Bowman.
Good evening, y'all. I prepared planning on keeping it short talk. I'm a concerned member of this community. I do not want a system that does little or nothing to prevent violence for this city. I do not want ineffective tools for problems we have known solutions for. I want money to go back into community developments and welfare, and I do not want our community members of color to have to carry the burden of ineffective safety tools. The fundamental promise of ShotSpotter is to reduce gun violence. But let's be clear. Even ShotSpotter's own contract admits it does not prevent shootings. It detects sounds after the fact. Boom! Hand clap. A car slammed door, a pop balloon, a car backfiring, fireworks. Think about it, spending significant public funds on a system that tells us when violence has happened, but does nothing to stop it from happening in the first place. We need to invest in solutions that are proactive, not reactive. And the problem doesn't end there. ShotSpotter is alarmingly inaccurate. Take Chicago, where a staggering over 90% of ShotSpotter alerts turned up absolutely no evidence of a shooting. That means police resources are being wasted on false alarms, potentially leading to unnecessary and even harmful interactions with our community. We are willing to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars for a system that cries wolf 9 times out of 10. Speaking of money, let's talk about the cost. Here in Little Rock, we're looking at a new contract for nearly $200,000 this year alone. And the police department is considering expanding that to a 3-year deal totaling a shocking $600,000. What else could that money be used for? Community programs, mental health services, violence prevention initiatives, secure homing, food stability. No worries. You're fine, ma'am. Things that actually address the root causes of violence rather than just reacting to its aftermath. Is ShotSpotter the best use of our limited public funds? Excuse me. I am not sorry for my tears. I'm not sorry for feeling upset as I go into this next part. Finally, and most importantly, we must acknowledge the deeply concerning issue of who ShotSpotter targets. This technology is primarily deployed in neighborhoods that already experience overpolicing, communities of color, communities of poverty. In Little Rock, we see this starkly. Police respond faster to ShotSpotter alerts in the 12th Street area than to 911 calls reporting shots fired in other parts of the city. This isn't about making everyone safer. It's about further concentrating surveillance and police presence in communities that have already borne the brunt of systemic inequality. We cannot allow technology to aggravate existing disparities. We will not forget Adam Toledo. He was 13. Adam Toledo was 13. He was shot and killed 4 years ago this past weekend. ShotSpotter set into motion the events leading to his murder. The teen was holding a gun that had minutes earlier been fired by another man, and despite complying with the officer, had his life taken. I watched that video. I watched that young man, the same age my daughter, die with his hands in the air. So when we consider the facts that ShotSpotter does not stop violence, is frequently wrong, is incredibly expensive, and disproportionately impacts communities of color and impoverished, the answer is clear. We must say no to ShotSpotter. We need to demand that y'all invest in evidence-based solutions that address the root causes of violence. Y'all need to build trust with the communities you serve. Because I see our communities coming together out here. Redirect these resources towards what truly works. Let's build a better, safer future for it all, not just a select few. Thank you.
Alex Cemento. Alex Cemento. Brooklyn Brock. Mr. Osiris Bali, school board member.
Speaking as a community member. Good evening. Today we find ourselves at another critical juncture. I believe it was inconsiderate to expunge the vote to end Little Rock's contract with ShotSpotter because it's an inaccurate gunshot detection system. It's one that we should not reconsider. This technology, despite its promises, has proven to be unreliable, misidentifying gunshots, mistaken in even when their car backfires or fireworks, and we're wasting valuable resources on this. For the money we spend on this flawed system, we could be investing in the real solutions that actually make our community safer and more vibrant. ShotSpotter surveillance increases police activity, but it wastes officers' times. Where I'm from, we call that busy work. One major study of this technology showed that ShotSpotter fails as an investigative tool, providing no evidence of gun-related crime more than 90% of the time, and producing exceedingly few arrests, less than one per 200 stops, and recovers guns less than one in every 300 stops. ShotSpotter fails the Black and the Latinx communities where it is disproportionately deployed. The tool increases police activity and the risk of police violence without producing any significant effect on firearm offenses or shooting victim medical outcomes. Bravery doesn't happen in the absence of fear. We're asking you as elected officials to be brave in seeking solutions instead of making excuses. You have the choice to prove tonight with your vote that it's wrong to invest in a system significantly marked by fault and find an alternative that people can support. Consider how you might be brave for the sake of building the kind of healthy, sustainable, and equitable communities and relationships and governance we well deserve. Cowardice is not a purview of the powerful. Instead of pouring funds into the technology that doesn't work, we should invest in what we know does work. Youth employment, community programs, diversion efforts. By providing young people with job opportunities, we can reduce the allure of crime and create a future where our children are empowered and engaged in what's going on in the city of Little Rock. Supporting after-school care programs and summer programs, this will ensure our youth have a safe place to learn and grow and reduce the likelihood of them being involved in dangerous activities. We need more community engagement because that's key. When we actively listen to our community members in our neighborhoods to collaborate with residents and build trust between the community, we create an environment where people feel safe, supported, and heard. Diversion programs which focus on rehabilitation instead of punishment can lead to long-term reductions in crime and recidivism. We cannot continue to throw away this good money, my money, our tax dollars, after ineffective technology when there are proven methods to address the root causes of crime and invest in our future, our youth. Let's redirect our resources to a building community where safety is not just measured by surveillance systems, but by the opportunity to trust and collaborate. Replace your fear of the unknown and be brave enough to explore the options within this community. Once again, I definitely think it was inconsiderate to expunge the vote because you all are elected officials and nobody's called to expunge the votes that put you in those seats. So you made your choice. Let's continue to find the alternative options and let's end this contract once and for all with sound thinking, AKA ShotSpotter.
Ms. B.J. Woods.
Good evening, y'all. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. Before I start, I just have to put something in perspective that is on my heart. Mayor Scott, you are a whole mayor. And the level of insubordination, the supremacy, white supremacy, and misogyny that you have experienced as mayor, which is evident tonight by some of the actions of your board members, is a microcosm of what ShotSpotter will facilitate in our city. So I just want to say that before I get started. So I'm here to strongly urge this board to reconsider and reintroduce the contract with ShotSpotter based on clear feedback from residents. So yes, we have data. We have a lot of data. In addition to considering the information I will share, I urge you, Mr. Hout et al., to review scientific data like what was captured by Dr. Eric Pisa at Northeastern University. He was contracted by the research leg of the Department of Justice. The results are plain and simple. ShotSpotter does not lead to more arrests for gun crimes or more convictions as promised by sound thinking. Okay. So within 9 hours, we ran a community survey. We had almost 10 community members respond per hour with to total 72 respondents. And here's what we learned. Nearly 80% of respondents had already heard of ShotSpotter. When asked whether they support, so to put in perspective, 77 seats are back here. So just imagine another 77 people in here, 72 people in here. When asked whether they support to use it in our community, a decisive 86% said no. Their top concerns were 73% are worried about over-policing, 68% say ShotSpotter damages community trust, 53% doubt the accuracy of the alerts, and 51% believe it's too expensive. A very small percentage, 12%, felt it would lead to faster police responses. That tells us that majority of residents don't believe this tool is addressing the root causes of violence or insecurity. We also asked how safe people already feel in their neighborhoods. Over 53% said they feel very safe, and many more said they feel somewhat safe. That does not indicate widespread demand for more surveillance or aggressive policing. And here's where the responses came from. Ward 1 led with 34% of responses. Ward 3 followed with 26%, and Ward 6 with 13%. These are your constituents. They're saying no to ShotSpotter and yes to smarter, more community-driven approaches to safety. We should listen. Please reconsider this contract, and we can all work together toward public safety strategies. Lastly, I would like to add that I'm here on behalf of the Village Place. We serve no less than 500 people each year with community-based programming. Yet, only 4% of our budget, F-O-U-R, percent of our budget comes from government support. Meanwhile, nearly $200,000 is being allocated to ShotSpotter, a system that over the last year generated about 1,100 alerts of gunfire. That is about $180 per alert, with no public evidence of its impact on safety outcomes or community trust. Imagine the difference that level of investment could make if directed toward community-rooted solutions like youth engagement, mental support, or reentry services. We will continue engaging our community through surveys and outreach until we reach a point of broad and representative input. And I also want to add that Mr. Hout and the prosecuting attorney were discussing murders. But between 2013 and March 2025, almost 200 Arkansans have been killed by police. So let's not let them be forgotten. Let's keep them in the forefront of the conversation as well. I appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Woods. Ms. Tanya Stafford. She spoke to him, but she has a card as well. Do you want to speak again, or was that enough? We'll count what you already shared. Okay. Oh.
I'd like to speak and thank y'all for your service.
Yes, ma'am.
One thing, I agree with what this gentleman said. We need more community programs for our youth. There is a way to stop, you're not going to stop all crime, but you can prevent some of this. With the drones, with all that stuff, it's a waste of money when we need to focus on other programs. And we need more police patrolling, because I can drive, anytime I'm out, I won't see any policemen patrolling. I'll see them at the community center, 3 cop cars sitting there. 1 will be facing community center, 2 will be baseline. And they're not doing anything. Now, when they came to my house, and I let them come in, someone had reported that this gentleman stole the Valentine box and the wrapper was around my carport, the pole. And I let them come in. I didn't have to, but they draw their guns. And I told them, I saw I'm the one in here. But they sent 5 cop cars. Said they were going to make a police report. I called about the police report. They said there's no record of that. The violence. I'm not against pit bulls, because I've seen some pit bull misses that are very friendly. But like next door to me, there's a pit bull mix. If she comes up the fence, she's going to attack me or some kids. And then she's a Rockwater mix, the same way. But animal control used to, in the 70s and 80s, come around the neighborhood, and if they seen that you had a dog, they made sure they had shots and everything was taken care of. It's not that way. I've had to call the mayor's office about 3 or 4 years ago because some man down the street was feeding stray animals in the front. Kids, mailman could not walk. And I had to call the mayor's office, and he got animal control out there. And I had to call 2 different times, 2 different set animals. He got rid of them in the front yard. It's not fenced in. And animal control came to my door and knocked and said, "Excuse me, are you the one that keeps calling the mayor's office?" And I said, "Yes, and I'll continue. You need to do your job." I'm not saying their job is not hard, because it is. But I have been able to pick up dogs and take it to the shelter. Now, if I'm able to do that, then I know they can do an even better job than I can. But, like this lady holding this 13-year-old that got killed because of the ShotSpotters, that's ridiculous. That a child was murdered. And those drones and all that's not going to help us. We need more police patrol. We need to feel safer, more programs like this gentleman said. Because we need to feel safe. I can't even go out my door because of some problems in my neighborhood, especially next door to me. Can't even go in my backyard. I've had to spend money to try to fix my yard. And, it's really sad. I never thought I would see Southwest Little Rock look the way it does. A lot of places look like city dump. And it shouldn't look like that. We can get programs like 3 people in my neighborhood last year, code enforcement come, told them to mow their yards. Their grass was about like that. Other people's was like this with trash. They did nothing to them. And, enforce the law, because You know, we could start a program for senior citizens. We could go and help them, you know, mow their yards and stuff. We can get young people art classes, uh, dance classes, something. I asked some kids a few years ago about programs that I had suggested. And I said, I've talked to pastors, other people, and they said, when are you going to start this? And I said, I'm not. Somebody will. But, you know, I'm willing to volunteer. You know, I like to foster some animals with animal control. Some other places I can't because the problem's next door to me. And it shouldn't be that way. It should not be that way at all. But I think that's all that I have to say, and thank you so much. Okay,
Thank you, Ms.
for letting me
Stafford.
speak.
Ms. Norma Huffman.
Evening, everyone. So, of course, everybody knows this subject. I was here in February explaining to you guys this does not need to happen. This room is full of people that agree. But yet, a good part of you guys still want it. I still want to know the benefits of it. Because I still don't see it. What is a computer going to do? What is a camera going to do? Not a damn thing. You guys know I'm blunt. You guys know I don't sugarcoat. But a computer and a camera ain't going to do nothing. They're not going to... An inanimate object can't do nothing. Only we can. We need the programs for the kids. Yes, my son is I raised my son right. No, he didn't finish high school. Hell, neither did I. Me and Director Phillips went to the same one. He actually graduated, I didn't. Director Lewis knows exactly where I live. She's been there. I welcome each and every one of you guys to my house. But answer me this, why did I find out through the news that there was police trying to find a so-called shooter and a victim behind my apartments on Allison Circle several days ago? I'm in their backyard. There was no shots. There was none. Or I would have heard it. I hear gunshots through the neighborhood all the time. But that day, there was nothing. The only time the police is out there is when they have been called. Or, of course, when I open up my mouth. It's ridiculous. They should be out there doing their jobs. This computer, I despise technology. Not only because I was raised to be against it. Now, mind you, my dad worked on computers from the time he taught himself, knowing he was born blind, until the day he died. You ask him what he thought of Windows 95, it was shit. Windows Vista, he couldn't stand. The man was blind his whole life. He taught himself. So yeah, I hate technology. I'd rather go back to the DOS days. And AOL. And dial-up. This technology will do nothing. It will not prevent crime. It will not prevent murders. Yeah, I can honestly see it could benefit, but it's going to do more harm than good. Because as everybody behind my shoulders, it's not going to prevent it. We as a community, us as Little Rock residents, should be there to prevent the crime, not put it off on technology. I want DOS back.
Mr. Daniel Yesley? Yisley? I apologize.
Lots of people have a hard time with that one. But good evening, y'all. My name is Dr. Daniel Yisley. I am a research scientist that works for the National Center for Toxicological Research. I was raised a Christian and a farmer, which taught me two things. One, honesty, and the other, the desire to help people. It was natural for me to become a biomedical scientist because, you know, as a scientist and not an attorney, because the data itself is honest when enough of it is gathered. And as a biomedical scientist, I care about saving lives. Gun violence is an epidemic. It is unconscionable to insinuate that anyone here is pro-gun violence and wishes harm upon our communities, or, you know, that people aren't getting saved by emergency responders and stuff. We all are here to search for solutions to the epidemic of gun violence. But we need to be honest and truthful about what is, you know, effective and efficient. And, you know, I'm being a little silly here, but Lord have mercy on the poor clients of the lawyers that have previously spoken. I have not been a part of legal proceedings in a long time, but I have been a scientist for quite a few years, and any mildly competent cross-examiner with an expert witness would punch some glaring holes in their claims, considering that sound thinking on their own website does not even claim the same things that the lawyers previously did, because they would be sued for false advertising. The ShotSpotter has been around since the 90s, and so we've collected almost 3 decades worth of data. The company itself claims it's 97% accurate, which is true. It will pick up every single, just about, gunshot. But its accuracy rate is a bit tainted by its false positive rate. It has almost a 90% false positive rate. It'll pick up every gunshot, as well as every time that somebody, you know, hits a rock with their car, uses a hammer, or anything like that. And so, you know, there is lots of calls that then get used. So Little Rock Police Station, they had like 1,100 false calls on it, or it was 1,100 pings with 80% of them being false, assuming that's about 880. And then you see, you know, it's quite a waste of resources. You know, they say that response times and evidence collection to be more efficient, but then do not claim that criminals can be found at higher rates. Is the thing is that, excuse me, I had blood drawn today, so my blood sugar's a little bit low. Donated some earlier. So let me collect my thoughts a little bit again. Yeah, so sound thinking does not claim themselves that ShotSpotter improves evidence collection rates or response times by a significant margin. They do claim that the averages are lower, but do not present data in terms of the standard deviation or standard error of the mean, and do not declare any sort of statistical significance in these things, which I, as a scientist, care about. There have been studies done. There are rigorous meta-analyses done on these programs, done with the ShotSpotter system, and none of them have shown that any data that improves the arrest record or the finding of the criminals that have committed these atrocities, or, you know, and there has been no victims that are claimed to have been saved by the faster response times. So it is inaccurate to say that these things are true in the case. Which makes it just simply inefficient. This is a waste of our community resources. We all have the same desire to end gun violence, but we have no desire to send our police on, you know, chasing windmills like Don Quixote's, you know. If those, because I mean, fundamentally, if the ShotSpotter worked, if we had confidence in the data, if the data showed that we could have confidence in it, you know, we wouldn't be here today. None of us would be here today. You guys would pass this and it wouldn't make the news, you know? Like, people would be happy about this, but that is not the case. It is also perhaps not lost on me nor the council that the only people that are for the ShotSpotter are attorneys, particularly ones that are prosecutors, whereas the rest of the community members gathered here today are against it. And if I remember back to the last meeting back in February, Director Miller had mentioned that he was simply interested in security theater things. He didn't really care whether or not this was effective or not, just whether or not it made people feel safer. And, you know, it's a kind of ludicrous thing to say to his constituents whose money that is being piled up and set on fire, taking hard-earned Arkansas tax dollars and sent to foreign tech startups and investors, whereas this could actually be put back into our own communities, kept the money in the state for, you know, building up our communities in multiple ways. Because fundamentally, these are Arkansas tax dollars. You know, all of us are pitching in and trying to solve those issues in our community. And we're entrusting you guys with those money, like that money. And we would love for you guys to use that responsibly for programs that are effective. I mean, hilariously, you know, if we want to save some money on something that is only marginally effective, we could put billboards of eyeballs around our neighborhoods, because it turns out that all of the studies that have done, you know, on that shows that there's about a 30% reduction in antisocial behaviors. And I'm sure that it would cost a lot less than $200,000 to, you know, hire some local artists to hang some paintings in some alleyways, you know? But, you know, all this to say that ShotSpotter throughout its almost 3 decades has not produced any data indicating that it reduces incidents of gun violence or improve upon the successful arrest rate of other perpetrators. Things that have shown consistently to be highly effective at reducing gun crime rates is things like early childhood education and after-school programs and the like. These things are, you know, sound and grounded in data that has been proven time and time again to be true reducers of these crimes. And, you know, of course we want the gun victims now to have, you know, faster, you know, better mortality rates and better outcomes. But of course, you know, if we want that, we do need to invest better in infrastructure and things like our, you know, medical facilities to ensure that there's enough first responders out there that can get to them, to make sure that our emergency rooms are staffed with, you know, trauma units with enough resources that they can take care of everybody. It is, you know, silly to be wasteful. It is silly to squander our precious resources on things that are simply inefficient when there are tried and true methods and tried and true ways to, you know, save the people's lives and keep our communities safe. And I, you know, as a resident of Ward 1, I would hope that our director that represents us would keep, you know, his constituents in mind with an upcoming election next year, and perhaps disheartening emails and disparaging comments during council meetings that may dissuade people from being willing to vote for him again. Thank you very much for your time, council.
Mr. Gregory Moore. Mr. Gregory Moore, is it? All right. Just make sure.
Hello, my name is Gregory Moore. I live in Little Rock and I'm a father. And I wanted to come tonight to talk, to ask y'all to vote against a contract with Sound Thinking Incorporated, AKA ShotSpotter. They have to keep changing their name because they are a shady company, and we can all tell. ShotSpotter is invasive, error-prone, and increases harm to the communities where it is placed. It is placed overwhelmingly in poor Black and brown neighborhoods. That's why the ACLU says that this technology entrenches racially biased policing and surveillance. In 2021, the city of Chicago's, I want to say really quick, there's been some talk about studies, and ShotSpotter claims it has it has a lot of claims, but ShotSpotter has never produced a study. There's never been a study that supports ShotSpotter's claims. In fact, there's been tons of peer-reviewed, reputable studies, and all of them show the same thing. ShotSpotter does not reduce gun crime. In 2021, the city of Chicago's Inspector General found that ShotSpotter is not an effective tool in developing evidence of gun-related crime. Out of 50,000 alerts that ShotSpotter was calling probably gunshots, 4,500 of those, they were able to find evidence of gun-related crime at those locations. That's a 9% success rate. So, you know, people have said this, what ShotSpotter is doing is picking up all kinds of different noises and sounds. I mean, I think about my neighborhood, there's like, I live next to the hospital, and there's helicopters that fly over all the time. There's, you know, I think about like collecting trash. There's noises, and ShotSpotter is picking up all those, and it's sending police to those areas, police that are like in high alert, right? So what this technology is doing is just sending like police to the neighborhoods where these microphones happen to be. It's just a lightning rod for police. So it's like, oh, you have a microphone there, that's where the police are. It doesn't make sense. It's like looking for your keys where the light is or something. It's like, I mean, the police come to check out any sound, fireworks, door slam, and this is a waste of resources, as has been said over and over again. The LRPD themselves have said that they prioritize these ShotSpotter alerts over 911 calls. And these ShotSpotter alerts, they're sending out cops to things that are like not at all probably a gunshot, as has been like shown in multiple studies. So like, what happens when the police get there? ShotSpotter sends police into communities for no reason and on high alert, expecting to confront a potentially dangerous situation. And this is really dangerous for the communities where ShotSpotter is placed. It's just a waste of money. It's like it's just like a tech scam, it seems like to me. In Chicago, an erroneous ShotSpotter report led police to shoot at a 13-year-old child lighting fireworks in the backyard. They wouldn't have been there if there hadn't been a microphone there, drawing police to itself like moths to a light bulb because of any loud sound. The Associated Press found that ShotSpotter misses live gunfire right under its microphones sometimes, but it also mistakes backfiring cars, other loud noises. Many judges have thrown out evidence because it's from ShotSpotter. It's not admissible in many courts. It's been studied over and over again, and it has not produced any studies that support its claims. It just doesn't work. It's a waste of taxpayer money. It's also cruel. That's the reason why I'm speaking. It's a horrible thing to do to increase surveillance in people's neighborhoods and make their neighborhoods a more hostile place to live. It's just not wanting to think about it. It's just wanting to like throw some garbage tech solution, you know, when we could do real solutions, as have been enumerated many times by many of the people here. But, you know, I mean, the Chamber of Commerce doesn't care about that stuff, I guess. I don't know. They just see people as a nuisance, and they want to just, you know, surveil and just make their lives worse. This is like a scam company, it seems like to me. They claim to be 97% accurate, and I guess like that's been discussed as like, because they happen to catch the gun sounds. But they, you know, we've said over and over again, they're catching all kinds of different sounds. Sound thinking sales pitch, it promised more arrests for gun crimes and convictions, and thus a reduction in gun violence. But none of these promises have come to fruition. In 2024, an independent analysis by the Crime Prevention Lab at Northeastern University looked at their impact in Chicago and Kansas City, found that this technology does not reduce gun crime in the areas where it is deployed. It's just, people are just finding this every time they study it. Similar analysis were found, okay, it's because it's just marketing. That's what it's just marketing. It's like so much tech-flavored grifting that we see these days. It's like Theranos. You all know, like, That's what this is. And it takes up, some people are, oh, technology, whoa, but it's not. It's pretending to be a high-tech futuristic solution when it's hollow marketing. And it's cruel also. And it's racist and cruel and expensive and wasteful. Similar analysis were found in other studies by Cook County State's Attorney's Office, the MacArthur Justice Center, Chicago Office of Inspector General. The Cook County State's Attorney's Office found that ShotSpotter has little impact on arresting shooters. MacArthur Justice Center found out of 40,000 police deployments in Chicago in 21 months. They found that 40,000 dead-end police deployments in Chicago in 21 months. So that's just 40,000 times in Chicago where the police were just sent out where nothing, it was nothing. The MacArthur Justice Center found ShotSpotter to be inaccurate, expensive, and dangerous. It's marketing behind a high-tech facade, and it works on some people. And that's what we're seeing here and when people are voting for this. Study after study shows that this company is not delivering what it says it is. And we need to be spending our money on ways that make the city better and increase opportunity for people who live in Little Rock. And Sound Thinking is not the company that's going to help us do that. But I want to say a couple of things also about drones, because I also want you to vote against but I don't know, I was confused by what went on, because I also signed up to talk about drones. But to me, it's not just a budget decision. It's a decision about how we prioritize safety, privacy, and public trust in our city. And right now, I see three major problems with moving forward with the drones. First, there's no privacy rules. The city has not yet established clear policies, how the drones would be used. Would they be monitoring protests? Private backyards? Where's the oversight? Without strict guidelines, we risk opening the door to invasive surveillance that violates the rights of our community members. Second, there have been no public input on that. The proposal is rushed forward without hearing the people who would be most affected, the residents of Little Rock. We deserve a say before new surveillance technology is introduced into our neighborhoods. Where was the public forum? Where was the transparency? And thirdly, we don't need it. This drone program is money that could be put towards things that actually prevent crime and improve public safety. I mean, people have said lots of ideas, youth programs, community initiatives, mental health resources. Drones don't solve problems. Investing in people does. And that's like what I see as a through line through all these proposals. They're not investing in humans. They're seeing humans as a nuisance that should be, surveilled and like not trusted. I mean, we're all adults and we should be running our city together, not like targeting certain communities for surveillance. It's really disgusting. So it just feels like a scam, and I really wish that you would vote against it. And I just want to say, ShotSpotter is a waste of money, and surveillance is not safety. Surveillance is not safety. Surveillance is not safety. Surveillance is not safety.
Hey, here's what's going to happen.
Surveillance is not
if that keeps
safety.
on, there won't be any more else
Surveillance
speaking.
is not safety.
All right.
Surveillance is not safety. Surveillance is not safety. Surveillance is
Director
not
Phillips,
safety.
you're now asked to speak.
Surveillance is not
We won't hear anymore.
safety. Surveillance is not 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 safety. Cancel ShotSpotter. 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 We take care of us. 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 Surveillance is not safety. 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 We take care of us. 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 Cancel ShotSpotter.
Director Phillips,
Cancel
you're recognized.
ShotSpotter.
Mr. Moore.
Cancel ShotSpotter.
Mr. Moore.
Cancel ShotSpotter. Cancel ShotSpotter. Cancel ShotSpotter.
Mr. Moore.
Cancel ShotSpotter.
I'm with you, but I want to share some thoughts too.
What's that?
It's
I
his,
said I'm
it's his
with
turn to
you.
speak.
Yeah.
I want to share some thoughts too.
Okay.
So
He's
if y'all
recognized
will
to
allow
speak.
me to speak, I would like to share.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
And that has concluded our commentary. We'll now go to Director Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to just address Mr. Moore since he was just up here, but I want to thank him and each one of you for participating in the process. Every now and again, we have high interest items on the agenda, and each time I press the button because I want people to know that when you come here, you are seen and you are heard. And I hear you and I see you. And
I've already shared due to the order that just happened that we're now concluded our remarks. We're now going to Director Phillips. That's why I was trying to get Mr. Moore to stop. So, Mr. Phillips, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. And there were a lot of points made that are valid and that should be vetted. I want to thank y'all for showing up today and emailing us, raising concerns and questions. This is a process that we do together. As I said last week, we spent 90 days dealing with a stormwater manual, and I'm getting somewhere with this. And in that process, our planning department, public works department came up with suggestions on what the city should do. And as a board, we listened to our constituents because people said, hey, this stormwater manual isn't good. It's going to have a bad effect on the city. So we listened to them. We asked our planning department, public works department, get with the people. Let's look at this again. Let's hear what they got to say. Let's talk to the people who are most knowledgeable about this subject. Let's talk to the people who are most affected by this subject. So we did that, and we worked through a process that allowed us to get to something that we voted on last week to approve. I think we should do the same thing here. I think we should listen to you. You are knowledgeable, clearly, by the comments today. You are affected by the emotion shown today. So I think we should listen to you. I spoke with the police chief today, and I told him that I was going to share this because we have a relationship. And in my non-professional tone, I said, no disrespect, but every department in the city of Little Rock deserves to be questioned. We just can't do things because people say we should do them. We have been elected to ask questions, to vet processes. And the police chief told me he understands. He gets it. And I appreciated him for saying that. And this is the same thing we have here. This is a process that should be questioned and vetted. So today, I want to share a few things. I want to talk about processes. I want to talk about policies, and I want to talk about the problems. First, as it relates to the process, and I would ask our city attorney, I have a few questions here, so if you could jot down your answers and respond to them when I finish, I would appreciate it. First question is that this item is on the agenda as an ordinance. It's not sponsored by any particular board member. So I would like to know why me as a board member wasn't allowed to defer this item like board members defer items that are recommended by staff all the time. Secondly, I think one of our constituents pointed out today, there's a question about whether this should be a sole source contract or not, if there's other technology that does similar things. She said she didn't get an answer. I would like to get an answer for that for her today. Also about the process, I don't think the expungement vote was correctly handled under the Little Rock Code of Ordinances. At the February 18, 2025 meeting, there was a board meeting. It was the day of the snowstorm, and we were meeting virtually. I attended virtually. Director Hines, which had his right, and he properly did, he notified the board that he wanted to expunge or rescind the ShotSpotter vote. He asked the city attorney what's the process in doing that. He gave notice, which he's required to do per our rules. If you look up the agenda for March 4th, so he said it February 18th. We had an agenda meeting February 25th. We voted again on March 4th. If you look at the agenda for March 4th, the expungement vote is not on the agenda. I asked that question during the meeting, and the city attorney gave me an explanation that it didn't need to be on the agenda because there was no motion. However, under Little Rock Code Section 2-53B, if you pull it up, it said that any item, it didn't limit it to expungements, any item that's offered by a board member shall, which is unequivocal, be on the next agenda. This item wasn't on the agenda. So we didn't even vote on the expungement properly. So I would like to get an answer on whether the expungement was ill-conceived and not properly handled, and whether we can handle this going forward. So those are my questions about the process. Let me continue about policies.
You don't want an answer?
When I finish. As it relates to the policies, we need to have policies to build trust. Apparently, all of you are here because you don't trust this, and I understand that. So we need policies to build trust. As part of that, when this ordinance failed back in February, I sent an email to the city attorney's office with a proposal of some ordinances that other cities around the country have enacted to help build trust that have these other technological advances for their police departments, whether it's ShotSpotter or drones. There are ordinances in place that allows for more transparency, more involvement, more engagement to build trust in our community. I would have liked for that to be on the agenda right now so we can have a holistic discussion about both those things, how those things work together. Make sure that you're informed on the process. Say, hey, if we're going to have ShotSpotter, this is how it's going to work. This is how you can be involved. This is how you can be informed. Unfortunately, I did not get that proposed ordinance, and it's not on the agenda today, but it will be on the agenda at some point, and we will get that voted on. But cities like Durham, North Carolina, which a lot of people point to as a city doing things the right way, they have independent evaluations of ShotSpotter data. They have ordinances that require their city to engage with contractors to make sure that the data that's being reported is true and accurate. We should do things like that here in the city of Little Rock, because as I understand from my colleagues, and just for y'all to know, there are enough votes for this to pass tonight. You only need 6, and if there are 6 people that say yes, it passes. So if it's passing, then we need to do other things to build trust with you guys, to build trust with the community. Independent evaluations is one way to do that. Other cities like Nashville, Dayton, and Grand Rapids have adopted ordinances that deal with how to manage ShotSpotter. and they have very clear language on what that should look like. And I'll give you some examples. It says that whereas the city council finds that no decisions relating to surveillance technology should occur without strong consideration being given to the impact of such technologies that may have an impact on civil rights and civil liberties, including those rights guaranteed by the First, Fourth, 14th Amendments of the United States Constitution. It also says that cities should find legally enforceable safeguards that include robust transparency, oversight, and accountability measures so they can protect the civil rights and civil liberties before any surveillance technology is deployed. It also says that the city council finds that if the technology is improved, that data reporting measures must be adopted and empowered by the city council and the public to verify that mandated civil rights and civil liberties are safeguarded and adhered to. That's what we should be doing. We should also have a surveillance impact report. What is that? A surveillance impact report is a report that describes how this technology works. It describes the proposed purpose of the technology. It shows you where the technology will be deployed and why it's being deployed in certain areas. It shows the fiscal impact of the technology. It also shows adverse impacts of the technology and what adverse impacts it may have on your civil liberties or civil rights. That's a surveillance impact report. We also need a review of pre-existing uses. So if we already have technology in place, we need to be able to go back and make sure the things that we are using are being used correctly. And this proposed ordinance says no later than 120 days following the effective date of the ordinance, any entity on behalf of the city seeking to continue to use any surveillance technology that was in use prior to the effective date of this act or sharing of the surveillance data therefrom must commence a city council approval process. Again, so if it's already in place, you got to come back to us and say, this is how we're going to check this data, make sure that we're protecting the rights of the people of the city of Little Rock. Additionally, there should be an annual surveillance report. What is a surveillance report? Summary of how the technology was used, whether and how often collected surveillance data was shared and received from any external persons or entities. Where applicable, a breakdown where the surveillance technology was deployed geographically, including identifying census tract data. A summary of all the complaints lodged by the citizens about the use of the data. Results of any internal audits, information about violation of surveillance use, and any actions taken in response to complaints. Also, we need an analysis of any discriminatory, desperate, or other adverse impacts on the use of technology that may have an impact on your civil liberties, civil rights, guaranteed to you by the First, Fourth, and 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution. Within 30 days of submitting this annual surveillance report, the city shall hold one or more well-publicized and conveniently located community engagement meetings at which the general public is invited to discuss and ask questions about the surveillance report. Let's get this information out to you all. Let's have meetings. You get a chance to review it. Y'all know if y'all been paying attention, that's important to me. I want y'all to have information that you can review and then come to us and share your concerns. These are the kind of things that we should be doing if this is going to pass today. Additionally, there should be a community advisory committee on surveillance. We need people to make sure that this is working correctly. We got people here, doctors of research, attorneys, people affected in their neighborhoods. Be involved in this process as part of a community advisory committee on surveillance. So those are just some of the highlights of the type of ordinance that I will be putting forth to make sure we have the type of data necessary so you can be informed and engaged in this process. All right, so those are the policies. Let's talk about the problems. I have a copy. Queena, can you help me for a second? Director Adcock, I hand you yours. Oh, well. I'm gonna take a minute and allow my colleagues to get a copy of this. This is a copy of the contract. Because the question that you all raised, I requested the contract. And I know someone mentioned that lawyers are bad. I'm a lawyer, by the way, so hopefully not. Okay, well, thank you. But I used my law degree, and I read the contract. And I'm gonna hand it out to my colleagues and give them opportunity. You had an extra one? Oh, yeah. This is a copy of the contract that was entered into by the city of Little Rock on August the 10th, 2018. I highlighted the first paragraph for my colleagues. This is the agreement dated the 10th day of August 2018 between the city of Little Rock and ShotSpotter, also called SST or ShotSpotter. So in 2018, and some of you mentioned this, but I just want to read it for the record. If you go to my colleagues on the board, if you go to page 10, Article 8, and I'll give y'all time to get there with me if you want to read along, and I'm going to read it aloud. Again, page 10, Article 8 of the ShotSpotter contract reads as follows. Further, regardless of prior statements, representations, or course of dealings by any ShotSpotter representative, we do not warrant or represent expressly or implicitly that the service or its use will result in prevention of crime or hostile enemy action, apprehension or conviction of any perpetrator of any crime, military prosecution of any enemy force, or detection or neutralization of any criminal, combatant, or threat. Prevent any loss, death, injury, or damage to the property due to the discharge of a firearm or other weapon. In all cases, result in a reviewed alert for firearm discharges within a designated coverage area, or that the ShotSpotter supply network will remain in operation at all times under all conditions. That Article 8 is called limited warranties and disclaimers. From an attorney contractual standpoint, that means that ShotSpotter has told the city, this is not going to help you solve crime. It's not going to help you prevent murder. It's not going to help you convict anyone. That's what they said in their contract that we entered into.
Who's lining your pockets? Those who still want it.
Ma'am, the city director is speaking. We just ask you all to allow the city director to speak. We've allowed everyone to speak. Let's keep everything.
Cut off comments.
I did because you did not adhere to the rules of decorum. That's all we ask. That's all we ask. Director Phillips.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. So the contract says the ShotSpotter doesn't do those things. So I think it's important for us as a board and you as a public to understand that. So that's why I want to read that aloud for everyone's hearing. And if you can't tell, I'm against this, right? So I'm going to vote no. But another reason why I'm voting no, this is important to me. Last year, I was a big proponent of our sales tax initiative. I'm not saying everybody here voted for it, but I thought it was going to do the city a lot of good. I thought there was a lot of things in there that we could do to help our city become better. Apparently not enough people in Little Rock agree with me because we don't have a sales tax. But as a result of that, we don't have resources as anticipated. As a result of that, I learned today there's been additional budget cuts. Not that I learned today. I voted on the budget. I knew it then, but I was reminded today of additional budget cuts that's going to affect our summer youth employment program. Each summer, we typically hire about 700 youth in our community. Because of the budget cuts related to the loss of sales tax revenue, that number is going to be down to 250 to 300. So there's about 400 youth in our city that had employment last year that likely will not be able to be employed this year because we don't have the resources. I heard many of you talk about using these funds to do other things that are important and proven. And I know people on this board know, because I've heard most people on this board say it, there's nothing better than preventing crime than a job and an opportunity for our youth. So to me, that's not something we can vote on today. just want y'all to understand processes. That would take a different conversation, a different ordinance, some amendments, but this is $225,000 that will go towards this program that we've all know we're questioning whether it's effective or not. We know now that the contract says that it doesn't do what we thought it said it does. We know now that there's other cities across the country that are pulling away. We know now that there's an opportunity to have different ordinances to bring an opportunity to be more oversight and more community involvement in the process. So I think the $225 would be better served helping our summer youth employment program get more people jobs this summer instead of using a technology that doesn't work the way we thought that it did. So, like I said, I want to talk about processes, policies, and the problems with this. And with that, I hope I said something that makes you understand that you are seen, that you are heard. Don't give up on us. I know it can be frustrating coming here, spending your time, telling us how you feel, being very emotional about the process, and then not getting the results you want. That doesn't mean you're not heard. That doesn't mean the process doesn't work. Please stay engaged with us because I hear you and I'm listening to you. So with that, I will ask the city attorney to address some of those questions I had about processes, and then I would like to respond to them. Mr. Attorney.
Y'all broke the processes.
It was an ordinance, I don't know why it got.
That can hear what's being said and change their vote.
Ms. Caitlin,
Yes.
please allow the city attorney to
No,
speak.
because you cut off our comments.
I cut off your, Ms. Caitlin, I cut off your comments because you just,
And y'all ain't listening. Y'all corrupt.
Ms. Caitlin,
Except
I'm
for him,
asking you
apparently.
to please adhere to the court. I do not want to have to ask you to leave, all right?
Lois did too?
All right.
Fantastic. Please.
I don't want to have to ask you to leave, okay? Please. All right. Mr. Attorney.
One of the questions is whether this was proper. The answer is that it was. It was an ordinance. It was listed, which I didn't know actually till Monday when I was called by the Times and immediately said it has to be an ordinance. I will take the blame for that because the only ordinance that you could vote on was essentially the ordinance that you had voted on initially. The only differences would be the date of passage. And it turned out that one of the words was misspelled, and we spelled it correctly in the final version. You ask about why yours wasn't deferred. When you asked for it, you didn't make a motion tonight, and you know you can't vote in an agenda meeting. So if you wanted to defer, you should have moved to defer tonight. You did not, and it had been placed on the agenda as an ordinance. You ask why wasn't the motion to expunge put on the agenda, because until the motion is made, it doesn't get on the agenda. Motions don't. For example, you will look at your agenda tonight and there is no motion to adjourn, but y'all will be able to go home tonight before it's over with. So, you know, motions are treated differently from ordinances and resolutions. Let's see. In terms of not honoring your request to defer it, you're correct that there are times when that is done, but Director Hines is the one that had asked that this be put on for this particular night, and I didn't know if y'all were going to work that out or if you were going to take a vote tonight. It's not my job to figure that part out. That's between y'all. And I think that's your question.
Yeah.
Oh, the sole source. It is a proper sole source ordinance. We checked that with the police chief on more than one occasion. And I would think that the member of the executive staff that deals with the police department would want to make sure that that was correct too.
Well, for the public, can you explain why it was a proper sole source?
Yeah, for two reasons. One, the initial one, there wasn't really anybody else in town. And the way that ShotSpotter works, and this is something that you need to add to your list of things that you think we ought to have, because I think you came up with a very, very good list, the thing of surveillance and all that, the test. One of the things ShotSpotter does, which gives me a little pause, and I think we need to talk about, is it puts up these sensors in a community area. One of the things that didn't come out from the research tonight is they all base themselves on a report out of a particular community in which the report says it didn't show any faster responses, it didn't show this, but ShotSpotter, and you've just carefully pointed out the language, was treating all the stuff as proprietary information so it couldn't be looked at. So when those studies were done, they all kind of based it off the ones that said we can't show it, but they couldn't tell what was going on within the areas where ShotSpotter was located because ShotSpotter didn't provide that information. The data wasn't separated out for that information, and the study itself said we cannot tell whether ShotSpotter is doing this because we don't know exactly where it was. They just took the number of calls for that city for an era and didn't find any significant difference in responses to calls, but they couldn't say whether there was a significant difference in the responses to calls within a ShotSpotter area. So I do believe, particularly since we're going to be bringing another ward in, if this passes, and if that passes, both of those are big ifs, and I have nothing to say about that, that we need to be able to say to them, look, you know, we're not going to play that game. We need to have the information. Now, I think part of the original data was written that way because it was essentially a test, and it really didn't cost us much if it cost us anything. It's like a computer. You buy a system, you might as well plan on dealing with the same company for the next several years for maintenance and operations because they're the only ones that know how to deal with that particular type of system. And that's what happens. That's why those are very difficult contracts. That said, though, I think those are all very valid points that we ought to have, and we ought to know what's going on. And that doesn't change the fact that when this contract was put into place, they went out there, they put in all of the infrastructure. They have the infrastructure in there. When the contract was not renewed, they eventually returning it off. I don't know, and the police chief is not here, but I don't know if it's actually turned off now or not, but that's what they were going to do, is to turn it off, but they weren't going to remove it. So we would essentially be either using the sole source contract for what's already there that we've had 3 years of contracts with, or we would be putting out a bid to put out all new sensors and everything else, which would be vastly more expensive.
Thank you for that, Tom. So let me just make sure I understood your answer to the sole source. There's technology related to the sensors that makes ShotSpotter different than any other technology that allows for it to be a sole source. Am I understanding that correctly?
The sensors that ShotSpotter put in would not work with other technology. You know I'm a Luddite, but when you put in a computer system for the entire city, you got to use something that works with that. The mere fact you can get another system doesn't mean it can work with all of the tools that you've got.
Got it. And
that's where we are.
Yeah, in that process, if I understood you correctly, you have concerns about that collection of
I have very serious concerns about the idea that we can't get the data out there. We've got a research university at ULR with a perfectly good criminal justice department. A very good place to find out, is this working here? Is this being over intrusive here? What are we finding?
All right, understood. And just for two other things, Mayor, with the city attorney, and then I'll yield my time. One, to be clear, so even though the code ordinance says any item shall be added to the agenda, is your interpretation that any item doesn't include a motion to expunge a previous vote?
No, an item is going to be an ordinance or a resolution. I guess it could be a proclamation that the mayor makes, but motions are not included. You don't have any agenda that says this is the motion to go to second reading. This is the motion to go to third reading.
We suspend the rules to do that, though.
Well, you have to suspend them, but you got to have the motion. And if you don't have on the agenda that it's a motion and you say that ordinance controls, then we've never passed anything legally.
So by that logic, and this is, I'm glad we're having this conversation in front of the people. Like, to me, the whole process is set up where we get an agenda item we get our agenda on Friday, and then we discuss those things on a Tuesday. The public can see us discuss those things. They have a week to call, email, stop us at Kroger, and say, do you like it? Do you hate it? You should vote no. You should vote yes.
Always Kroger.
It's always Kroger. And that didn't happen this time, and obviously I've expressed concerns about that, but I'm saying in general, if I'm hearing you correctly, if any of us decide to make a motion to rescind any vote at any time, the public will never know about it because it won't have to be on the agenda because it's a motion.
That's not exactly what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, first off, your agenda tonight has this on as an item because it is now an item because the vote was taken to expunge the vote, and then the comment was made at the last agenda meeting to put this item on the agenda. So that's why it's there. Saying I'm going to make the motion is a notice that impacts the number of votes it takes to pass the motion. If notice is given, then it's a majority, which is 6 for y'all. If notice is not given, it's a supermajority, which is 8.
Right.
And so that's why Director Hines made the notice that he was going to make the motion. A motion to expunge cannot be made if people have changed their circumstances based upon the action that's taken. Typically, that's looked at in the zoning process. If we grant the zoning, there's been no motion for reconsideration, which has to be made at the same meeting, and this board has consistently included a recessed meeting to the next Tuesday, which we basically have not been doing a lot lately. We just have special meetings. But there was a time when predominantly we would recess till the next Tuesday. That would be the same meeting for a reconsideration motion. That motion can only be made by somebody who voted on the side.
No, I get that, and if I can cut you off, because I know where you're going, okay. and I understand it. But for the public, what I want to understand, so we vote on this tonight. There are 6 votes. It passes. So 2 weeks from now, if I want to make a motion to expunge it, the public won't have notice of it on the agenda. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Is that correct?
Right.
See, I don't, and I understand that's the answer. To my colleagues, I don't think that's a good process. If we decide to expunge something that affects our constituents, it should be on the agenda. They should know what's happening, just like what Director Hines did. I don't think Director Hines did anything wrong. He followed the rules according to our city attorney. If that is the rule, I think we should change the rules, because if we're going to vote on anything that's affecting people, whether it's expungement or rescission, whatever, it should be on the agenda and people should know what's going on. So at some point, not at some point, I ask you now, if you can draft an ordinance to change the process. Obviously, I got to get 6 votes to get that passed, but I wanted to make sure that if there's a motion made, that item is described on the agenda so our public can know. They could have showed up to that meeting when we got ready to expunge that vote. Maybe people wanted something to say. Maybe they wanted to tell us, do not expunge this vote. They didn't get an opportunity to do that because it wasn't on the agenda and no one knew about it. So I want to make sure that we're as transparent and forthcoming so people can be involved in this process.
Yeah, I don't have problems drafting the ordinance that you've asked for. I will ask for this from you. Remember, Robert's Rules of Order is it's essentially for large bodies that are constantly in session, like Congress, except they don't use that, they use their own. It's not really meant for ones that meet every week or twice a month or something like that. It seems to me that if you want that done for fairness purposes, we really ought to do something that deals with reconsideration and deals with expungement at the same time, and says when they can be made and when they can no longer be made.
And I respect that. And we can talk about those details offline. I just want the public to know that we're going to work on that process to make sure that there's information shared with them. Mayor, according to the city attorney, I had the option and I didn't do it. So I'll make a motion right now to defer item 18.
There's a motion. Is there a second? There's a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Yes.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Y'all
Nays
have all
have it.
this information.
And you're still.
Yeah, we'll come to that. Yeah, we'll come.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
He needs to announce
All right.
it.
Next,
He said the nays have it.
Okay.
yeah.
I didn't hear
Director Computers. Director Computers, then Director Lewis.
Thank you, Mayor.
He likes to take pictures, not do research.
Director Computers.
Pictures on Facebook, but can't do a lick of research.
Two things. One, we keep talking about a process that we're trying to decide if it's worth spending the money on. We have the chief of police outside, and I'd like to have him come in and talk about his opinion of what's going on.
No, if we can't speak, he can't speak.
Why should the chief of police?
Ms. Caitlin,
What?
please.
Please
I'm trying
what?
to not
No.
ask you. No, please. Director Capiris, will you keep going? Then Director Lewis.
And so if,
Yeah, that's what I'm about to say.
if the
Doesn't
chief
even-
could come in, so we could ask him some questions.
If you, can you get officer? Could you get Chief Helton?
Oh, so he gets to speak?
Kathy Webb, you work for Get Loud Arkansas now, and for you to sit back and just not say nothing while all this is going on is an extreme disappointment. And
Ms. Jeffrey, Ms. Jeffrey, just like I asked Ms. Caitlin. All right.
But we
Ms.
get to chatter too, just like the police gonna get to chatter.
Right.
You put us out.
Director Capiris had another point.
Director Capiris.
And the second thing is, after you speak, I'd like to call a question.
After Director Lewis.
After she speaks, I'd like to call the question.
Yes, Director Phillips.
So he needs 8 votes to call the question.
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
it's to limit debate, which,
Ms. Jeffries, would you allow him to talk, please? Ms. Jeffries, if you're not gonna allow him to talk.
Hey, Chief, I got it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, leave it alone. I got it.
Mayor, I just want to be clear.
All right,
that
Director Phillips.
when Director Dean Capiris calls a question after Director Lewis speaks, it takes 8 of us to approve that motion to call the question before we actually vote on it.
Yes, everyone's aware the call the question motion from parliamentary procedure takes a supermajority. All right.
Chief,
Director Capiris.
Chief, would you give us your opinion of this process that we've been going through? And do you feel like it helps you in overall not preventing crime, but solving crime, and then in a way then helping prevent crime?
Yeah, the technology we've been talking about is a resource. It is a tool. It's an investigative tool. We've heard all the folks that want to get up here and provide information on how it's been effective. We've heard the other side on folks that don't trust the technology, don't trust the processes. But it is clear the way we have used it in our city. It has helped in investigations. It has helped the resources of the Little Rock Police Department in order to help solve crimes. And as far as prevention is a multifaceted approach in how we go about preventing crime in our city. And so, if anything, the technology has helped. We live in a very technology-driven society now where we all rely on technology, everybody in this room, and it's going to continue to grow. And as our city grows, these resources help us in a time when it's very difficult to recruit to this profession. This is what we use in order to help us combat and address issues within our community.
And the next question, if we do not pass this, will it hinder your ability and will it demoralize your police force by not having this assistance?
Could you repeat your question? I got a lot of background noise.
Can we have some order, please, and listen to the questions and answers? Thank you.
If this is not passed,
Yes, sir.
will it, one, hinder your ability to perform your duty? And will it demoralize your police force for lack of support for this board?
It takes away a resource for our department that allows us to be able to investigate crimes. So anytime you take a resource away, it hinders things. It takes us maybe to an investigation that we can help utilize or take some of these tools and resources that might speed up an investigation process, now might prolong an investigation process. And then when we talk about the morale standpoint, yeah, anytime you lose a tool, it impacts officers. But we are very resilient, and we will find ways to get things done. But it does. Anytime We use these tools. This process has been around, or this tool has been around since 2018. We've had this in our city for almost 5 years, or excuse me, it's almost 7 years. So we,
Hey, mister in the back, please be quiet. I know you guys want me to ask you to leave. I'm not going to do that. But please be quiet. The chief is speaking, all right? Miss Caitlin, please.
We want facts. We want facts.
That's okay.
We want facts.
We want you to move to Little Rock, all right? Come, all right. So,
Constituents.
Director Computers. All right.
You need to listen.
I will listen to Little Rock constituents, okay? I just want you to move to Little Rock. All right, Chief.
Asking for one number and we'll shut up.
Chief, carry on.
One number
Chief, carry on.
Please.
of data.
You said you'd be resilient, but it would hurt your ability to recruit and retain officers for this police force.
I think as an agency that we lead the state in a lot of technologies and the way we're doing and the way we're addressing crime. We've seen it in our data. We've seen it in our numbers, how we've been able to impact violent crime in our community. These resources help. When you take those away, it does impact, because people will look at agencies that are being progressive, how they're trying to address challenges in our community. Little Rock is a growing city, and we're going to continue to grow whether our community likes it or not. It's coming, and we got to continue to meet the needs as our community grows. And everybody has a role in public safety. Everybody does, and I don't disagree with the views about prevention, intervention, and treatment. You got to have those. It is a balance. You can't have one without the other. You have to have an enforcement effort. You have to have a holistic youth prevention, intervention, and treatment. If you don't have both of them, neither one is going to work.
And I agree with you. And just for the
Mr. Kabir, keep going.
Just for the record, we spend $5.5 million on PIT a year. That's directed by this board to try to do what everybody has eloquently said we needed to do. And to me, that money, if you look at any other city in the South, as a percentage of the budget, we spend more directed on that, and we have a group of people who attempt to put it in the right place. And the idea that we're going to take a tool that you need and not do it, to me, it doesn't make good sense. So I'll be voting for it.
Director Lewis. Director Lewis.
Thank you. I just have to.
Director Lewis.
It is on.
Yeah.
Got it. I just have to state that I don't take it lightly that I hold an elected seat, and I have received a great amount of opposition from Ward 6 residents when it comes to this technology. I do not like how my question was taken out of context when I asked in comparison with the price about if Ward 6 was included, then what is that price? Because to me, that is a lot for just one particular area in Ward 1. I did not say that means Ward 6 is coming. But what I want to just state is overall, I don't feel that this has been handled properly. We stated last week how we were not for this, and then for it to come on the agenda. We do have to have a better job of being transparent and dispel this air that the board has about sneakiness. I mean, I'm hearing all the comments. We want to have a better position than what we have now, and total transparency is what's going to get us to overcome that. What's alarming is the actual people who want this technology. What's alarming to me is they don't even reside in the area where ShotSpotter is going. Like, that really speaks volumes. It does. And I don't want to keep harping on it, but it just baffles me that we can continue or we can promote and advocate technology for drones and different things like that, but something as simple as giving us a tool to have a virtual meeting, we can't stand behind that type of technology, which doesn't cost nearly as much money as what we're talking about here today, but yet we can speak and spend money elsewhere. So to me, I just keep saying, make the sense make sense. It's not making sense. So I have to just stand by what I believe in, and that's why I'm voting no.
Chief, you can sit down. There's, Director Computers already had a motion on the floor. Director Computers had a motion on the floor. There's a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay.
Do a roll call.
Ayes have it.
Do a roll call,
Roll call.
so we can know. Yeah, we gonna work up a board.
Members of, before, Madam Clerk, just for board members to understand, Ms. Jeffrey, please. Madam Clerk, everyone right now, this is only to vote on the motion, call the question. Carry on.
Director Adcock? Director Miller? Director Richardson? Director Webb? No. Director Peck? Yes. Director Hines? Yes. Director Lewis?
No.
Director Campuris? Director Phillips?
No.
Vice Mayor Wyrick?
Yes.
6-3 with one absent.
Motion fails. Director Phillips, then Director Hines, then Director Miller.
What about me?
Thank you, Mayor.
I'm sorry, hold on. Sorry, you're right.
Well,
Director Wyrick, then Director Phillips.
Okay.
Has more money than most residents in her area. So
thank you. I had a question for the chief. Did he
Chief
leave?
Helton, if you come back.
more lies, no data.
You are testing some serious
Thank you for coming back.
Yeah, no problem.
My question is, ShotSpotter was put in 2018.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I know you were around then.
I was around.
Yeah, so was I. But when we put ShotSpotter in the location that we put it, what was the reason for that? I recall that we had a number of calls to the area due to shots being fired, maybe some homicides or shootings. What is your recollection of what happened in 2018?
It was all based on the number of calls, the history of the location, the number of shootings, homicides, batteries, terroristic acts, which could equal to, what we effectively drive-bys, and the number of shots fired calls that have come in through our 911 and CAD data, basically, which is our computer-aided dispatch.
Would you say that was the highest location in the city as far as those types of incidences, and that's why we put it there?
Yes, ma'am, at that time, yes.
Okay, so
And historically has always been that way.
Okay, even today, it's still that way?
Yes.
Okay. There's been a lot of talk about the reports that ShotSpotter gets from noise, that it might not be correct. Can you tell me how that process works? It looks like that once it detects something, then there's someone, it says an acoustic expert, looks at whatever that notification is, and they determine whether or not they think it's a real gunfire versus fireworks or something else.
Yeah, I'm not fully knowledgeable of the ShotSpotter, I know it goes, once the shot's detected, it goes to one of their screening centers, but we have representatives from ShotSpotter here that probably could answer that question more effectively than I can.
Well, that's kind of been a contentious thing through the whole meeting, so if we could have somebody say how that process works. I do know it eventually goes to 911, and it's a priority call at that point, but is there a layer of investigation from the time they detect the shot to when it really comes to 911?
Yeah, it usually goes there, they'll verify it, and then it goes to 911.
Okay.
Once the ShotSpotter activation.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to know. Thank you, that's all the questions I have.
Director Phillips, then Director Hines.
Mayor, I put my hand down.
Oh, Director Hines,
Thank you, Mayor.
then Director Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to play something for everyone in the audience. The value of one life, the value of one family getting justice is worth every penny we've spent on this system.
It's worth all the murders. These don't get justice. Stop Cop City! Stop Cop City! Stop Cop
Director Miller,
Mayor, I'm not finished yet.
you're not finished yet?
I'm not finished.
All right.
Chief, I appreciate all of your commotion. We've had letters from the U.S. Attorney's Office that's used our evidence gathered by ShotSpotter, geolocating with assailants in the vicinity. I know we've had instances in Little Rock where we've gotten on the scene quick enough to save at least one life.
City!
Give us freedom.
Surveillance is not safety.
So,
Prevention
Chief,
is needed.
No piece of research that shows it works.
Ms. Jeffrey, Ms. Caitlin, I've been very patient.
We've been patient.
I've been very
It's been a
patient.
long
I know you all want me to ask you to leave. I'm not gonna give you that pleasure, but please,
No,
keep
it's not a
going.
pleasure. Why
Are
do
you
you
ready?
corruption and
Yeah,
lies
I'm
going
ready.
on is bullshit.
Please don't ask us.
Ms. Caitlin,
Yeah.
please don't curse anymore.
Too late.
All right, you got one more time, I promise.
Chief, I appreciate
Really?
your candor, your staff's
Officer.
candor.
Let's get it. You wanted to leave, so let's go.
No, I don't want to leave.
I just want
but
you to
I'm
move to
sick of
Little Rock.
corruption.
Me,
It's so
move to Little
gross.
Rock, okay?
Don't touch me. Do not touch me.
Chief, I appreciate your candor. I think what gets lost here, and I represent roughly 28,000 folks that live in Ward 5. And there are other cities, other wards in the city too, that would like the technology. Unfortunately, we put the technology where the crime and the shootings have been occurring. So that's kind of the root cause.
All the time. Shootings happen in Chenal all the time.
Hey, I'd love to have it out in Ward 5.
Okay, well,
Appreciate
put it there
that.
next instead of trying to
So-
infringe on black and brown communities. Put it in the white neighborhood. They commit crimes.
Ms. Jeffrey, please stop, okay? Are you finished? Or are we going to direct them? I know you guys are going back and forth. Ms. Jeffrey, Ms.
Hey,
Jeffrey.
I just wanted
All
you
right.
to pull the paper down in front of your face so I could see you speaking when you were trying to be muffled, but that's okay. I'm talking to the chief here. Chief, I appreciate your candor, and I'll be supporting this because I don't think we're at a time in our city where we need to be taking tools away, where you guys have proven for our city, for this location, our city, it works. Our prosecutors say it works in the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Pulaski County Prosecutor's Office. So I appreciate your candor. I'll be voting for this.
All right. Director Miller. Director Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. Here, let me say that it's not true that everyone who says they don't want the technology, they don't live in this affected area. The Goodwill neighborhood who lives in this affected area, I go to their neighborhood meetings, they want the technology. The Hope neighborhood is in this community. They want the technology. The Goodwill neighborhood is in this area. They want the technology. The Midtown neighborhood is in this area. They want this technology. And so when we have, I'd like to be able to speak, Mayor. I'd like to be able to speak.
Carry on. Keep going.
Yeah. And so we have people who want this technology. I've been on this board since 21. I've gone to more neighborhood meetings than I can count. These people who say, they live in Ward 1.
Ms. Jeffrey.
I've never seen
You got one more
these
time,
people.
all right? I know you want to.
I've never seen any of these people in a neighborhood meeting. I've never seen you.
You got one more time.
At any of the 2 dozen plus meetings I go to on a regular basis, I've never seen any of these people. Never. And we talk about trying to be transparent and let's not take away the public's needs and all, and I would agree with that. But one of the things that I have found out when I came here, I was asking our city attorney, we have, suspend the rules. Let's go to the first, second reading. Let's suspend the rules. Let's go to the third reading. We're always suspending rules because when we go to these different readings, we're supposed to have these readings to get the public's input over time. But we push everything down to one meeting. We suspend rules, we suspend the second reading, we suspend the third reading in order to get things done. If we really wanted more community involvement, we wouldn't suspend any rules. We would let these things run out for the time that people have to look at it, digest it, have one reading, give a chance to people to digest it, have a third reading, we'll vote on it. So we do things for expediency. When I look at this, and I'm hearing from neighbors who say they want the technology, and I'm hearing from people who don't want the technology, they don't live in these neighborhoods that I represent. They don't represent, they're not here, these folks. And so I'm going to be supporting this.
Chief Dyer, everybody.
Thank you.
I've been very patient. I will ask for everybody to leave, okay? I'm just trying to be very patient, make sure everybody's being heard. All right? So now, Director Webb.
Thank you, Mayor.
Director Computers, and I think that'll be it.
And I will be quick because I haven't changed my opinion since we voted a month ago. But I was just going to speak to the summer youth employment, and we are spending over $1 million this summer on summer youth employment. We've recently spent $1 million on the positive prevention programs. The board has made decisions that we have put more money into the community schools program. The money doesn't go as far as it has in the past because things cost more. And if we want to revisit those things, I'm not going to blame it on the sales tax, but we would need to make some decisions to move it to either add more money to the budget. We've spent our carryover money, and maybe we need to revisit to increase. Dana and I've talked about trying to expand the summer youth program, but those are financial decisions that we're going to have to deal with. So, and other than that, we've heard.
And we'll have enough, one of the things, and I'll just share it now, as we know, we have a emergency funding bill that's coming before us, and so we'll be able to close that gap for this year. We'll add some money in that too, because I figured you all would want that done. So we'll be able to fund definitely this year, next year through the emergency funding. We've gotten to about 300, as the Director Webb just shared. There's just been a lot of increased costs that you just got to account for these days. But we'll have the funding for the next 2 years. But long term, we're going to have to figure out the need to increase community programs. While we do have had the 5.5 million since the mid 90s, it's probably time to increase it from 5.5 million to another number. Don't know what that number is, but it's going to, a lot of things weighs in that. When we look at how we fund raises for other areas around the city and things of that nature, we got to really look into that long term. That's not something we got to do the next 2 years if we got this taken care of, but as we methodically look at funding summer youth community programs, as we see crime and focus on crime in a prevention way, it's going to have to increase because the issues are different than they were in the mid-90s, and so that justifies an increase. Don't know what that increase will be, but we'll bring that before you all. We want to do that methodically, just like it was done methodically in the mid-90s as we move forward. I believe we now heard all the members of the board. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. There's a motion to recess for executive session. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. We're now recessed into executive session. session to go over our boards and commissions for Civil Service Commission. Maxine Allen, Bobby Forrest Jr., and Jarrell Moore. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. There's a motion to a second. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it.